Everyone, thank you for watching this video. We are going to be going over student organization finances. This is everything that you need to know to successfully navigate all of the finance requirements of student organizations and their leaders. So first, let's talk about the certified user status. So in order to complete any type of financial paperwork, travel paperwork, submitting forms on behalf of your organization, you must be a certified user. So the three important components or workshops that you need to complete is doing the student organization finance training, the student organization travel training, and the event planning training, which all these trainings are available on YouTube, and we will host them in person at the start of the academic year as well as throughout the semesters. So you have to complete all three trainings and then take the certified user quiz. When you are done with this training, you will get an email informing you that you can take the quiz, and it will provide you with a link to get to the quiz. And you just have to get a 20 out of 25 to have passed the quiz. And you can take the quiz multiple times, but we usually like to see people try to pass within 3 times. If we notice that you are failing multiple times, which we can track that, we'll probably call you in and ask you to do the training over again with us. So this is the budget that our student organizations receive after they've completed the registration process. We do an annual registration process that starts at the end of the spring semester and must be completed by the end of the first month of the fall semester. The registration process is doing the online registration form on OwlConnect, submitting all your meeting minutes for the academic year into the document section of OwlConnect of your organization's page, as well as submitting an advisor agreement form. Once you've done all of that, then you get this budget from student government. So this particular budget is called the SGA operating budget. So you get $400 in the fall and $200 in the spring. So the $400 for the fall is broken into $150 for refreshments, $50 for supplies, and $200 for promotional items. For the spring, you get $150 in refreshments and $50 for supplies. This is use it or lose it money. So if you don't use all of the money from the fall semester, it does not roll over into the spring. If you don't use it all in the spring, it does not roll over into the next fall semester. And you have to spend the money based on how it is allocated. So you can't just spend all $400 on promotional items. All this money has to be spent on things that are held on campus, open to all undergraduate students, and free of charge. So if you choose to use the promotional budget to buy t-shirts for your club, it can't be t-shirts that say club president, vice president, treasurer, secretary. It needs to be t-shirts that you intend on giving out to the general public to promote your organization. You can't use this money to buy $150 worth of food at the local Applebee's on a club trip. It has to happen on campus. This money also is only available to our funded organizations. So groups like sports clubs, Greek life organizations, honor societies, and any other organization with membership restrictions, you do not get this SGA operating budget. And your budgets also come with an account number or index number, and you have two budgets. So you have an SGA operating budget that has its own index number and a fundraising budget that has its own index number. If you don't have your index number, you can always come into the Office of Student Involvement, and one of our student workers or staff members can help you get that number. It's also uploaded onto OwlConnect in the campus links section as well. So your fundraising money it does roll over. So you can use that money year after year and roll it over year after year. So organizations that have existed on our campus for a long time have pretty healthy fundraising, fundraising accounts because they have been rolling their money year after year. So this is a great way to sustain your organization, to be able to host things, programs and events that maybe your operating budget wouldn't be able to support. So let's talk about how you spend your money. So there are multiple ways to spend money. The first one is reimbursements. So this is what we see our student organizations do most often. And I would say it's typically because they're not planning in advance. And so when you want to host a pizza party for your club and it's a few days before, someone in your organization can go and pay for that pizza out of pocket and fill out the proper paperwork to get reimbursed. So the best paperwork to fill out to do this would be the payment request form. So this payment request form, again, must be filled out by a certified user. It should be submitted to the Office of Student Involvement at least 15 business days prior to when you need it back. You would just check off the student reimbursement box. The requester name is the certified user organization. The payee is the person that is getting reimbursed. You'd select which account it's coming out of, and you will put in the account code, and I'll show you all what an account code is. So all your money is coded into different lines. So if this is food that I bought, I would put 772120 as the account code that I'm going to be taking the money out of. You put the total of the amount, description of the expenditure, the certified user signs it, your faculty advisor signs it, and then you bring it back to our office for our director, who's considered the university official, to sign it. The payment request form must always be followed up with an itemized receipt. The receipt must be itemized. So if I decide to go to Walmart and buy 10 notebooks, 15 pens, and 11 backpacks, my receipt should show 10, whatever, 15, 11 of whatever I bought, not just the grand total. If you are going to be using your fundraising account, you also need to have meeting minutes attached to this payment request form. So remember, whenever you are using your fundraising account, there needs to be a formal vote that happens in your club meeting that then shows that you plan on using your fundraising account. There are sample meeting minutes uploaded to the Campus Link section of OWL Connect, and it will show you how the financial vote needs to look like on OWL Connect. So essentially, it would say, Daphne motions to use $500 to buy notebooks from the club's fundraising account. Eric seconds, 10 yes votes, one no vote, 0 abstentions. And that's how it needs to be written out. There needs to be a motion, a budget established, and what the purpose of the money is for with the formal vote. If we don't have this, we're not able to accept any type of paperwork. So again, if you want to be reimbursed, you want to have your payment request form, your itemized receipt, and if it's coming from your fundraising account, you need to have meeting minutes attached. If you're using your SJ operating budget, you do not have to have meeting minutes attached. After that, another way to spend money is your purchase order. So the purchase order is something that is a promise to pay. So instead of paying for it right away or sending a check before you receive the goods, you would use a purchase order that says, I will pay you once I receive the goods and it is to my liking. You used a purchase order when things are more than $1,500, if a credit card is not accepted, or if the vendor requires it. Again, if you need to use a purchase order, you would use the same payment request form that I just showed you, attach meeting minutes if it's coming from their fundraising account, and instead of a receipt, you would include an invoice or a quote from the vendor. We use contracts when we want to pay a performer or a speaker. It's very important to remember, if you are looking to hire somebody to perform some sort of service, lecture, performance for your organization, your first step is to contact Daphne Alston, that's me in student involvement, and I will help you with this process. You do not sign anything ever. You never sign anything. So if there's a performer that says, sure, I'll come perform at your club meeting, just sign this promise to pay or just sign this contract. Do not sign anything ever. The only person that signs things on behalf of student organizations is our Vice President of Student Affairs. So the minute you know you want to do this, set up a meeting with me and I will negotiate the contract on your behalf. We'll talk about P cards in just a minute. And cash advances, we don't use this that often at all for clubs and organizations, but if you ever need money in advance for a trip and where you're going only takes cash, or you have to buy something in cash for a club event, you'd fill out the payment request form, and then there's an additional cash advance agreement form that would need to be filled out. But if you know that you are going to need a cash advance, just come to the Office of Student Involvement and we'll help you through this process. And one more time, just in case you forgot, all receipts, no matter the method you use, must be itemized. P cards. So this is the way we want our student organizations to spend money. P cards is also known as the university credit card. So this can be used for anything that can be purchased online or over the phone. And we're at the point now that everything can be purchased online and over the phone. So if you are able to plan in advance, you can use a university credit card and no one from your organization will ever have to come out of pocket. The P card request form, which I'll show you in a minute, must be submitted at least 15 business days prior to use. So again, this requires a lot of advanced planning, but if you know at the end of the month you are going to do a pizza party for your club, think about that and start that process in the middle of the month or at the beginning of the month. The P card can only be used on campus between the hours of 9 a.m. and 4 p.m. You cannot leave campus or our office with the P card. So once you put in the P card request form, it is approved. You will get an email from our department secretary who will schedule a time with you to come in and use the P card. These are for purchases that are totaling under $1,000. So anything that you are going to buy where the total is less than $1,000, you can use the P card. If you are purchasing something from a Connecticut-based company, Connecticut sales tax cannot be charged to the credit card, and you need to let the vendor know that you are a tax-exempt organization and they cannot charge taxes to it. Connecticut taxes cannot be charged to the P card. If at any point an organization misuses the P card or loses the P card, you may be suspended or your organization will lose P card privileges indefinitely. So don't lose it, don't misuse it. It is an amazing resource for our student organizations. And this is what the P card request form looks like. It's very similar to the payment request form. Again, the requester is the certified user, who you're paying, if there's a website associated with it, what budget is it coming out of, any description expenditures, when this is happening. The certified user signs it, the faculty advisor signs it. So again, the difference between payment request form, P card request form, when you come to the office, the P card request form will always be yellow. the payment request form will always be white. But these forms are both uploaded onto Owl Connect. We also have videos on YouTube that shows you how to fill out a payment request form step by step if you need it to slow down a little bit more to get more information. One thing I want to make sure I mention, you cannot sign off on your own paperwork. So if you are looking to get reimbursed and the president was the person that spent the money, the president cannot be both the requester and the payee. The president would need to find someone else, a different certified user, to be the requester. But again, you can't sign your own paperwork. You can't be the requester and the payee and the person that signs at the bottom. Don't forget, whenever you're using your fundraising account, attach meeting minutes. When all your paperwork is done on your part, you bring it in, and the certified user signs it, advisor signs it, and our director for student involvement signs it as well. If you are ever looking to host an event on campus and your fundraising budget as well as your SGA budget is just not going to cover it, you can always request funding from the Student Activity Fee Allocation Committee. So this is a committee within the Student Government Association, and they support student organizations through funding for their events. So if your event is held on campus, it's open to all students, and it's free of charge to students, then you are eligible for SAFAC funding. SAFAC funding request must go through Owl Connect at least 30 days in advance. It must be submitted at least 30 days in advance of the event. If it's less than that, SAFAC will not review it and it will automatically be denied. So remember, 30 days in advance is really important. Your events for sure can include outside folks, and you can charge those folks, but students on our campus, they cannot be charged, and it needs to be open and free to them to attend. The SAFAC funding request form can be found on Owl Connect. If you go to the form section and you scroll down, you'll see SAFAC funding request forms right there. You click start and you start your form. The SAFAC funding request will ask you to justify all the dollar amounts that you are asking for. So if you need a performer, if you need the ballroom, if you need supplies, you need to be including quotes, invoices, or emails that show where you're getting the dollar amounts from that you are requesting for. So going back to fundraising, again, all organizations have fundraising accounts. Whether you are funded or not, you have a fundraising account. And this money does roll over year after year. So first step to doing a fundraiser, and there's a very specific cycle that needs to be followed, you need to submit an event approval form or a long-term money collection form. So the event approval are for things like doing fundraisers, bake sales, give back nights with restaurants, anything that you need to reserve space for, you'd fill out an event form just like you do for your meetings and other things. There's a YouTube video that shows you how to submit an event form, how to register your event on Owl Connect. So please make sure to look at that video if you are unsure. Long-term money collection form. This form is for organizations that will be collecting dues or money for uniforms throughout a semester. So if your organization requires dues to be paid by their members, what someone would do is probably an executive board member would go onto Owl Connect, fill out the long-term money collection form, and show that this is going to happen for the entire fall semester or spring semester, or whatever point you're doing it, and submit that form and then start collecting money. Again, this will be found on the form section of Owl Connect, and it's right here, long-term money collection form. After that, if you're doing a collection for your organization for dues, remember you have to deposit it every time you collect money. So someone shouldn't be walking around holding on to the cash for an entire semester and depositing it at the end. After every meeting, there should be a deposit made. At the end of every fundraiser, a deposit needs to be made. So for step 1, you do the event form or long-term money collection form. Step 2, you then just host your fundraiser or your meeting, whatever it may be, and you have 1 business day to deposit the money in the student accounts office in Wintergreen. You have to deposit the money within 1 business day. There is a deposit form that you can pick up from student involvement or the student accounts office to fill it out with the information that is necessary. And then at the student accounts office, they will give you a receipt. You will then bring that receipt to the Office of Student Involvement. Money cannot be spent from what you collected during the fundraiser. So if you made $75, but you spent $25 of your own money to host the bake sale in the first place, you can't take the $25 before you make the deposit. Make the deposit and then reimburse through the proper paperwork. And again, if you are collecting money from your organization, you have to fill out the long-term money collection form every semester. It must be done every semester. And this is just a quick guide to show you how to make the deposit. When you get the deposit form, it's going to ask you for the organization name, the index number of where it's getting deposited to. So you are likely going to be depositing it into your club's fundraising account. So make sure that you use the index number that's associated with your fundraising account. Then it's going to ask you for a 6-digit account deposit code, which is right here. Here are all the different types of deposit codes, but more often than not, you're going to be using this fundraising deposit code. It's going to ask you for a program number. It's always going to be 520000. And a description of the deposit that's being made. So you would include the date of the bake sale or the date of the meeting or dues, whatever it may be, that describes what this deposit is for. So that is everything related to student organization finances. Again, Office of Student Involvement staff and student workers are always here to support and help you. If you have any questions, even if it's just a reminder of what this video went through, we do not mind helping you because we want to make sure you are doing the paperwork correctly and the process goes smoothly for you. So if you have any questions, please feel free to visit us in ASC 217 to speak with a staff member or an involvement assistant.